How would you describe this synthesizer? Are there any words that come to mind? Today, you're going to win internet points if one of the words that you thought of was percussive. Let me explain. You see, a lot of dance music is about rhythm, and when you're just learning music, you might be fooled into thinking that the rhythm is carried by all the drums, and then the synthesizers or the musical instruments carry the pitch and the tone and the harmony and the melody and all these kind of dimensions of the music, and that the rhythm is mostly a drum thing and maybe a bass thing, and that you can kind of divide the roles in that way, right? And that's a very useful beginner way of thinking about it. However, at a certain point, your understanding is going to upgrade, and you're going to see that even the melodic or the harmonic parts have a certain rhythm to them, and they contribute to the overall groove of your track. So the game that we're going to play today is we're going to explicitly blur the lines between synthesizers and percussion. We're going to play a synthesizer as if it was percussion, and that little thinking exercise is going to help us even when we don't have any kind of drum stuff nearby, when we're just programming stuff into the piano roll. Imagine if every time I hit a drum pad, it would trigger a chord, and that chord would change once per bar so that it would stay in line with the chord progression of our song. Let's think together what kind of conclusions we can draw from that for our own synth programming when we're just doing it electronically. I've set this up in Ableton on my electronic drum pad. Let me show you. Let's go. So picture this. I've just got an operator playing. So when I hit a note on my piano, I'm just triggering a little saw wave. And I've created this MIDI effect track that has 6 channels in it, one for each of the most commonly used chords. So if my selector of the chain is here, it's going to trigger a minor chord, and then it's going to trigger the chord below that, the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1. So if I wanted to do one of the most common chord progressions in the world, it would be something like pretty cool. So let's automate this thing so that it moves automatically within the composition, and let me put a sound on there that's a bit more plucky. There we go. So you can see this thing moving here. So we're doing a 6, 5, 4 to 2 chord progression, right? Let's put in a little rudimentary drum beat as well. So if I'm just triggering a note on the piano, always the same note, now I'm going to try and trigger this with a drum. Now I'm going to put on a slightly more plucky sound. Now let's give this a whack on the drum kit. So I guess the perspective that I'd like to share with you today is simply to think about your drum programming as if you have your musical riff playing and you are a member of a marching band who has one of these snare drums, and you simply bang on your snare drum to add a rhythm that complements the overall groove of the track. Like from fast to slow, like... This works especially well if you change the programming to be very velocity sensitive, so that different levels of expression have different levels of, let's say, the filter opening, for example. So you can really go... Now, I would say enough bad drumming. I'm just trying to get the image into your head of someone banging a snare drum to the beat, because we can take this perspective with us in the DAW. For example, you can take a chord progression that you've created, run it through an arpeggiator that's going to trigger every chord every 16th note, print that out to another MIDI track so you've got all those individual MIDI notes right there, deactivate them all, and then start thinking like a drummer, where you're like, okay, which of these steps am I going to highlight? Which of these steps am I going to accent? So those are your two big dimensions. And you're going to picture a drummer going whatever. Picture yourself being a drummer, or even just tap on a table and then program that idea into the DAW so that your synthesizer then has that rhythm of that drum. Here's an example of it in action. I'm doing it for you step by step right here. So you take your MIDI chord progression, you put the arpeggiator on it, put it to chord mode, print all of those notes into 16th notes, stick them into a plucky synthesizer, deactivate them all, and reactivate the ones that you think a drummer would want to play, and then make sure that you prioritize certain velocities into an accent so that the whole thing has some emphasis. And then you get something beautiful like this. As always, my name is Oscar. Check out my Foundations of Electronic Music courses. Leave a comment to show me some love. Like the video, subscribe, and until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye. It's so fucking good.